Hello, everyone. Welcome to Eat to Treat. Today we're making chicken and waffles. Uh, so we're a nonprofit that aims to end health disparities, and I'm Dr. Amaris Williams. I have a PhD in nutrition, and I'm an avid foodie and a cook. And so I do live cook-along cooking demonstrations every first and third Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern of diabetes-friendly and hypertension-friendly recipes. Um, this one is not one that you want to eat every day. It's more of a treat, but it's a healthier version of chicken and waffles. And I usually post the ingredients ahead of time on eat-to-treat.org, but I was on a boat. I was on a cruise, and I did not post the ingredients ahead of time. So I'm just going to make this, and then you can come back to this video and make it yourself later. Okay, so chicken and waffles. Let's get started. Let me change the angle. So you can see my setup is completely different. I don't have any burners out, and I don't have a cutting board. So this is, if you don't like cooking and you don't like cutting things, this is a recipe for you. I'm going to get started with the smoothie because all my smoothie ingredients are frozen, and if I wait, they won't be frozen. And also, the smoothie is going to have alcohol in it, and you know me, I like to drink my alcohol while I cook. So, first thing is I've got about a quarter cup of frozen blueberries here, and these blueberries I did not buy frozen. I bought these not frozen, regular room temperature blueberries that they were on super deep discount. So I just bought a whole bunch of them and then froze them. So what I did was I put them on a rack like this with the rack and the sheet pan, and then put them in the freezer so that they would freeze separately and not together in one big clump. And then I've had them in my freezer for some time. So since last summer, basically, when they were cheap. So the next thing I put in there is some strawberries. I said 5 strawberries in the recipe, but just eyeball it. Put some strawberries in there. And then I like to put pineapple and peaches, and which that's what I have. I bought this fruit medley that has pineapples and peaches in it, and that's what I like to fill up a little bit of my cup with. So this is what I'm working with right now. I got blueberries, strawberries, pineapples, and peaches. And then I put the kale in last because it takes up space and it's hard to get the liquids down in the thing if you put the kale in first. So for the liquids, I have 100% juice grape frozen juice concentrate, and I just put a tablespoon of that in there, and that just gives me a little added sweetness and flavor, and it also gives me a serving of fruit in addition to the fruit that I'm already eating. So this is a fruit smoothie. I don't like dairy in my smoothies, but if you like dairy, you're welcome to add it instead of the water. You can also put things like almond milk or oat milk in there if that's your jam. Okay, so I've got my grape juice concentrate, and you can see that this is not full. Once I open this, I just keep it in a Ziploc bag in my freezer, and it keeps. So you can keep this for some time and just use it as you need it to make smoothies. And here comes the alcohol. This is an amaretto. I like the almond flavor in my smoothie, but you can also use orange liqueur. Like I've used Cointreau and triple sec before. I'm just going to put about a tablespoon of amaretto in there, and that's just for flavor. It's definitely not enough to get you toasted. And if I were using Cointreau or some other orange liqueur, I would use the same amount, 1 tablespoon. Okay, now the last ingredient is some kale, and my kale, it thaws quickly. So What I do is I go to the produce section, not the frozen section, but the produce section, and get the bag of chopped kale, and then stick that whole bag without doing anything to it in the freezer. And it does clump together a little bit, but you can easily break it apart when you reach your hand in there and grab some kale out to put in your smoothie. But that way you always have fresh kale or freshly frozen kale on hand that you can use for smoothies. All right. And there we go. So the last step is, if you don't have enough liquid in there, which doesn't look like I have enough liquid in there, is to put water in. And I, of course, did not put any water on my table, so I have to be right back. Okay, so I've just got a little bit of liquid in the bottom. It doesn't take much. And I mean, but everyone's blender is different, so do what works for your blender. But you can always add more liquid if you need it, and whether that's dairy or water, like I'm using today. So let's get this going. I'm just gonna blend it. This is gonna be loud. Sorry, guys. Shake it a little bit so that it gets really in there. All right. So now we have a smoothie, a berry smoothie with whatever fruit you put in there. Kale, which you're not going to taste, which is great, because raw kale is not, not anything to write home about. And a little bit of amaretto for flavor, or triple sec, whatever you used. And it's delicious. All right. Okay, now next step. Oh, I should have told you earlier. Your oven should be at 350 degrees. So if your oven is not there, turn your oven on to 350. All right. And we're going to make the chicken next, because that's going to take the longest to cook, depending on the size of the pieces of your chicken. So let me just this back. Chicken on my fruit. Okay, so I have here some boneless, skinless chicken thighs that I've already rinsed. And all I'm going to do is do a oven fried chicken. So I'm going to batter them and then put them on this baking sheet with the rack that I've already shown you. And that is going to allow the oven heat to get underneath the chicken and all the way around, so they get crispy all the way around. You can also use an air fryer for this. I don't have an air fryer, so I haven't tested it, so I can't really tell you. But theoretically, you should be able to use an air fryer, depending on the size of your chicken pieces, how much chicken you have. You might have to do it in batches. Alright, so what does the batter look like? The batter looks like 1 cup of all-purpose flour. So put that in one vessel, so a plate or a bowl, a shallow bowl, nice wide shallow bowl. Put about a cup of all-purpose flour. And then you want 3 eggs in your next bowl. That's what this fork is for that I keep holding. So crack 3 eggs into your next bowl. And hold on to your eggs because we're going to use them for broken. Use them for the waffles. So leave them out. Alright. Okay. So I'm just going to scramble these really quickly in my bowl. Just mix them up a little bit. And then last but not least, we're going to cheat a little bit and use a seasoned breadcrumb. And that's why I'm not seasoning the flour or the egg, because we're going to use a seasoned breadcrumb, which has a decent amount of sodium in it. Just out of the box. So there's no need to add more salt. So for a 1/4 cup of this seasoning, it has 580 milligrams of sodium. So that's a lot, actually. So don't need to add any more. I'm going to just put some in my dish here, and now we're ready to batter the chicken. And what we'll do is put it directly, once it's battered, on this why can't I have my words today? On this baking sheet with the rack in it. Okay. All right. Then so I have it in order to where the flour is first, the eggs are second, and the breadcrumbs are last. And that's the order you want to do it. So just stick your chicken in the flour and coat it really well. And your chicken should be dry-ish. You don't have to really pat it dry with a towel, but you don't want it to be sopping wet. And then put it in the egg. And then once that's good and coated, put it in the breadcrumbs. No surprises here. And then you can put it directly on your baking sheet with the rack in it. Okay, and I'm just going to do the rest of these quickly. And I said about a pound of chicken, and that's for 4 servings. And the chicken thighs that I bought, a pound was about 4 thighs, so it worked out pretty well. But it depends on the size of your thighs, obviously. And I'm just using one hand for this. As I don't want chicken on my other hand. Okay. Which means my fingertips are getting good and battered. And this oven fried chicken recipe is better for you than just deep frying it because it's going to have less fat in it. So definitely want to minimize the fat, even if it's a good fat, like say you fried it in olive oil or grapeseed oil or something like that. It's still fat. I mean, at the end of the day, and it's still a lot of it. A little bit of fat here and there, because is not going to kill you, but deep frying things regularly is not conducive to your health. you'll see later that we are going to use some olive oil in the waffles, and of course they're going to be cooked in a little bit of oil that we put on the waffle iron, but it's not nearly as much as deep frying something with batter, because the batter is going to soak up a lot of fat. All right, this is the last one, and then I'm going to put this in the oven at 350. So if your oven is not at 350, go ahead and turn it on. All right, and my cat is rubbing against my legs. She wants some chicken, but she can't have any. All right, I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna wash my hands and put this in the oven. Okay, back. So, smoothie. Have some smoothie. Mm. Okay. Just wipe up the egg mess that I made. All right, next up is the waffles. Don't worry, you're not going to sit here and watch me make 12 waffles. I'm just going to make the batter, and it says everyone's waffle maker is different. I'll just let you follow your manufacturer's instructions for the waffle making part. But the first step is to separate 2 eggs. And by separate, I mean separate the yolk from the white. And I find the best way to do that, there's multiple ways to do it, but you can stick your hand in there, get your hands dirty, and let the white slip through your fingers while the yolk stays in your hand. Or you can use the shell, which is what I'm going to do. So go ahead, crack your egg near the middle, and then separate it into 2 halves over the bowl that you want your whites in. And then go ahead and move the yolk from one half of the shell to the other half of the shell, and that will eventually separate it from the white. But you got to do it gently because you don't want yolk in your white. It's fine to have white in your yolk, but you don't want yolk in your white. All right, one more time. So I'm just going to crack it in the middle, near the middle, and then separate it into 2 halves, and then kind of just pour the yolk from one half to the other multiple times. I think it's almost about to break. Oh, there we go. Okay. And I did it without getting any yolk in my white, which is good. All right. So set the whites to the side. Now, we're going to put the wet ingredients in with the yolks. So that's 2 cups of milk. And I've got a nice brand new thing of milk here. Because like I said, I was on a boat. Woohoo! So 2 cups of milk in with the yolks. That's 1 cup. 2 cups. And what else am I putting in there? Oh, half a cup of oil. I'm using olive oil, but you can use whatever you have on hand. Any mild flavor oil. If you have extra virgin olive oil, I would not use that for this, because that flavor would kind of clash with the sweet waffles. Well, I guess this is more of a savory waffle recipe. But anyway, half cup of oil, and now I'm gonna get my fork out again and break my yolks and whip them up a little bit. What is the reason for separating the whites from the yolks? The reason we're separating the whites from the yolks is because we're going to beat the whites until they have stiff peaks, and that will give us airiness in this waffle. Okay. Have a little smoothie. Next, we're going to mix the dry ingredients together. So that's 1 cup of all-purpose flour. So, okay, 1 cup of all-purpose flour. And then 1 cup of whole wheat flour. So because we're using partially whole wheat flour in this is a whole wheat waffle, it can be a little dense. And that's why we're going to take the time and effort to beat the whites. And it kind of counteracts the density of the whole wheat flour, so we still get a fluffy waffle. Now, normally, you know, if I see a recipe where it's like separate the eggs, beat this, beat that, and then normally I will just omit that step because I like to simplify things, but this is necessary. So I did not simplify and take it out. All right, 1 teaspoon of baking powder. That's baking powder, not baking soda. Into the dry mixture. I had a teaspoon. What did I do with it? I had a tablespoon. Write that down. Okay, so I'm going to guesstimate this. But if you're wondering, a teaspoon is about 1/3 of a tablespoon. So putting 1/3 of this tablespoon of baking powder in with my dry. And the last thing is a pinch of salt. You can make this without the salt. The whole wheat flour and the olive oil gives it a decent amount of flavor. But I find that a pinch of salt, just a little bit, improves the recipe. So, my fork. And then now we're just going to mix the wet and the dry together. Then the next step will be to beat the egg whites, and then we're going to fold them in. Alright, so I mixed my dry together. Just going to pour in the wet. And give that a good mix. Not a good mix. We don't want to make them tough, but mix it until it's no longer clumps of dry ingredients. Don't overmix it. We want a smooth batter. Oh, and by the way, I adapted this recipe from a book from a book called Diala's Kitchen or Diala's Kitchen, and I'll show you that book here. It's a great book. It's got a lot of plant-forward recipes and pescatarian recipes. This is one of them, except she used a half a cup of butter, and I've replaced it with a half a cup of olive oil. But it's largely the same recipe. And she also had like vanilla extract and things in there. But since this is a savory waffle mix, I omitted that. Alright, so set aside your waffle mix. Have a little bit of smoothie. Get out your hand mixer. And get ready to beat some eggs. How long is this? Okay. Alright, so I'm just going to whip up these egg whites to stiff peaks. I guess that's pretty stiff. So basically, stiff peaks is when you have a peak, you pull your mixer out, and you can see it's still, the peak is still there, and you can shake the bowl, and it's not going anywhere. That's a stiff peak. So that was quick. And so what we're going to do is we're going to fold in half of these egg whites. And then fold in the other half of the egg whites. That was about a third. And that'll give us some airiness to this waffle mix. Some fluff. Add some waffle fluff. Okay. And that's basically it for this demo. I'm going to make these waffles in my waffle maker. But your waffle maker is probably different from my waffle maker. So it might not translate. What we have is a whole wheat waffle, with a pan oven fried chicken and a smoothie. So you get your fruits and vegetables, you get your whole grain, you get your heart healthy fats and oils, and you get to satisfy a craving for something that would be very unhealthy if you, not very unhealthy, but, you know, less healthful if you got it somewhere else, like at a restaurant. And now everyone can be happy and still eat the foods that they want. So, but like I was saying at the beginning, this is not a everyday recipe. This is still a treat. It's got a lot of sugar because of the fruit. It's natural sugar and fructose more than glucose, but still it's sugar. And if you have a blood sugar concern, then this is something that you want to do in moderation. So maybe half a smoothie, and adjust your insulin accordingly. Then the other thing is, because this is a savory waffle, I wouldn't recommend putting more sugar on it, like with maple syrup, which I love, and I I know I can't believe I'm saying this, but try and eat this with just the chicken as the flavor, and not with the syrup. So, and then the last thing is the whole grain. We got a lean protein and fruits and vegetables. So this is a balanced meal. You take pieces out, like if you decide you don't want the smoothie, then try and put spinach in the waffle mix, like cooked down spinach that's dry and squeezed dry, and chopped finely in the waffle mix to have a spinach waffle with your chicken and waffles, and then you can put herbs in there, um, and everything else. So that's enough talking. I'm gonna let you guys get to making your waffles. Don't forget to take your chicken out of the oven when it's done, and I will see you next time. Cheers.